Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show again. We had a little technical glitch there, and we think we're live now. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome again to our pre-Christmas edition.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas to everyone, and hope you have a wonderful week of holiday activity planned over the next week or so between Christmas and New Year's. The theme for this podcast is actually fake news, and that's what that backdrop behind us is about. And this was actually something that came to us from Tesla Owners Italia, run by Luca, who I met in Flachau, Austria in May of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought his Tesla Roadster to this event and ended up giving me the keys and said, "You've probably never driven a Roadster in Europe. Here's your chance." And I did. It was wonderful.
Nice.
Just wish I had it for a longer period of time. Usually we get rental cars, from
Right.
Hertz and Avis, and they're so anemic because here you are in Germany, and you have the ability to have unlimited speeds on the Autobahn. And then you get one of these grocery getter four-door sedans that, is anemic as heck, although I have taken those up to 140, 150 miles, despite that. So anyway, yeah, having a performance car there in Europe would be absolutely wonderful. But anyway, Luca sent or posted on Facebook a bunch of fake news about Tesla, and we thought we'd cover some of that this morning and talk about what's real and what isn't. So the first one that they talk about is Tesla Model Q in 2025. Be aware of fake news. In the last few days, there have been rumors that Tesla will release in 2025 a fantastic Model Q or Model 2. Let's be clear, they say. Tesla has not officially announced any Model Q or Model 2 for 2025. And they say any new economic model, if and when it will be introduced, will not be sold in Italy before 2027 to 2028. In the U.S., of course, that could come sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're waiting for this fantastic model, it means you're wasting time unnecessarily if you need to change your car soon.
Well, Model 2, Q, they kind of rhyme and they're kind of close. And but he's right. There has been nothing announced from Tesla about a Model 2 or Model Q or a $25,000 car. It's all people's pipe dreams. They would love to see these things, but there's nothing been announced formally.
And for years, there was talk about the $30,000 Tesla and that would be the car that would be the tipping point to convert virtually everyone from ICE to EVs, which also has not happened. But they talk about the Model Y Juniper, which is a restyling of the Model Y, successor to the Model 3 Highland, and that is expected for 2025. They talk about available to order January of 2025 with delivery within the first quarter of the year. And they tell you to expect improvements on interior, autonomy, and technologies, keeping the focus on competitive pricing. In addition, they say Elon Musk recently stated that producing a $25,000 car would be useless and stupid, emphasizing that Tesla's future is focused on autonomy.
Well, we've seen that through this last year, that you just look at what's happened and you can see where their focus is at.
Mm-hmm.
It's Optimus, it's cyber taxi, it's the cyber van, it's all of those types of things. And more recently, it's Elon doing his part to take over the U.S. federal government.
Yeah. In fact, I think Trump was very clear at one point. He said, he can't ever be president because he wasn't born in this country.
Yes.
So there's speculation that might have happened as well. All fake news, by the way. So they say Tesla is constantly innovating, but not with fake news. Now, here's another fake news item that has been attributed to Tesla. That Tesla is going to launch a hydrogen car, and for several reasons related both to Elon Musk's public statement and to Tesla's corporate philosophy. It's a hoax because, they say, Musk thinks hydrogen cars are nonsense. Elon Musk has repeatedly defined hydrogen as incredibly stupid. Well, he has a limited vocabulary in these fake news texts, doesn't he?
Yes.
And stupid if used for transport, claiming that the efficiency of hydrogen production is very low compared to the direct charging of batteries. The storage and distribution of hydrogen is complex and expensive. And it gets us right back to tanks and storage and flammable liquids and, all of that.
Yes.
The production of green hydrogen from renewable sources is inefficient and requires a significant amount of energy. And finally, Musk claims that hydrogen is a marketing farce used to divert attention from the electric solution. So Tesla's strategy, they say, is very clear. Tesla has invested heavily in the development of batteries and in the construction of a gigafactory for the large-scale production of lithium cells, solidifying its position as a leader in the 100% electric car industry. There have never been any concrete signals or patents related to hydrogen technology from Tesla.
Very true. And that's, some of the people that are talking about hydrogen have been assuming that Tesla would go to their Tesla Semi and make those hydrogen fuel cell battery cars or battery trucks. But it is fake news. Nikola is doing that, and somewhat successfully. The question and the fact that you mentioned, though, is on point. Green hydrogen is something that the oil industry would love because it comes from methane gas, which comes from the oil industry. It's natural gas, basically. And it's quite expensive, both to produce and to store and to take care of. White hydrogen, which is comes naturally from the earth. There are some people that are excited about it, but it still doesn't get around the idea that people are going to be driving around with a tank pressurized to several thousand PSI with an explosive gas inside of it.
Right.
What would happen the first time a car gets rear-ended and explodes because it was rear-ended?
Right. The Hindenburg comes to mind.
Yes. Ford Pintos from the 1970s come to mind to me.
as well. We have some visitors. Victor Atlasman is joining us from YouTube. Welcome, Victor. He says, good morning, guys. Merry Christmas Eve and happy holidays. Good to see you all likewise.
Thank you, Victor. On TikTok, Mauricio Diaz says, hello there from Germany. Lucid stock is going up. By the way, Chinese electric cars are all over Europe.
Isn't that something? Yes.
Yeah.
And the fact that Lucid stock is going up has not escaped our attention. And we have a number of viewers that are very pro-Lucid. Not really anything different is happening that I'm aware of. We have a dozen or so Gravities and Casa Grande that are getting ready to be released. And in fact, there's a factory shutdown right now until the middle of next month. So, but there's some news later on. We'll talk about them opening up in Saudi Arabia with a sales office.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of news if we have time on what's been happening with the stock in like Lucid and Tesla as well.
Okay. YouTube, Phoenix EAA. There is fake news about batteries in many cars, including Tesla. I saw news about a Tesla Juniper with a 500-mile range. We will see in January in 2025. Yeah, we'll see if that if that turns out to be fake news. TikTok, Serhi Trush says hello, welcome. YouTube, Bernard Holman, good morning from Toluca, Mexico. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Feliz Navidad, Prospero Año Nuevo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. On TikTok, Siri Trush says, why did you choose the Tesla brand for your project? Actually, a good question.
Yeah. Project, assuming Gruber Motor Company.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that.
Well, it all started with me buying a Tesla Roadster and going 100% electric from a Prius that my wife and I were driving, two of them actually, and became fascinated with the technology and had a realization at some point that the technology in that Tesla Roadster is identical to what we've been servicing for 35 years in data centers, UPSs, and critical power equipment and lighting inverters.
Sure.
Three-phase inverters. And it wasn't too much of a leap from that point forward to realize that we have the skills, the technology, the engineers, the field engineers, and the service people to repair this type of equipment. And sure enough, that turned to be that turned out to be the case with the Tesla Roadster.
Well, and when we started Gruber Motors, Rivian was somebody's pipe dream somewhere. Lucid was a vapor car. It was on a piece of paper with maybe 2 dozen employees in the entire company. There were no other EV manufacturers that were producing electric vehicles in the marketplace.
Hmm.
Um, Tesla was about 7 to 8 years into its life cycle, which was about 2 years before anybody else had brought an electric car to market.
Yeah. And once we repaired our first Tesla Roadster and saved the customer up in the Bay Area lots of money, it's a small community, and the word got out, and people began to realize there's an alternative to Tesla service for the Tesla Roadster. And we've never looked back from there. I think currently we have like 50 to 60 cars in the service center and EV Preserve. Roadsters, I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I've always thought it remarkable that when we look at what we've done, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the worldwide roadster community has had cars come through our shop at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just amazing.
It's yes, it's and we're honored, by the way, because it is a very special car. It was the car that started the EV revolution, and it's going to be a historic car going forward. Victor Atlasman, YouTube says, well said. It's important to have multiple sources of energy, but for different applications. Good point. Doesn't make sense for EVs based on existing technology.
Sure. And then on YouTube, M. Dale Bros says, cool, I'm all in on H2. Batteries do nothing to address the energy component. It's simply a storage medium.
Yeah, good point. LinkedIn, Jimmy Stack is joining us. He says MDL Bros batteries can use renewable solar and wind and hydro. Gas cars only burn gas.
Yeah, on the hydrogen, I'm finding that it's fascinating to hear about. In the last 2 weeks, we were talking about this a little last week. Potentially trillions of tons of hydrogen occurring naturally in the crust of the Earth, being generated, hydrogen fields that are getting replenished. So we don't know what the potential limit is on those fields, unlike what's in the oil industry. I think it's all very fascinating. I'm just much more skeptical about hydrogen's ability to be viable as a vehicle fuel type.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because hydrogen has been around further than the new generation, much longer than the newer generation of electric vehicles.
Yeah, and then of course with the rapid escalation of technology and things like energy use and storage, it's the change that is occurring over the next few decades is going to be exponential compared to what we've done for the last 100 years, and we can't rule out fusion. There's
That's
a
true.
very clean, extraordinarily efficient source of energy that may no longer require us to carry over 1,000 pounds of batteries around with us when we go to the grocery store.
Yeah. On TikTok, Sari Trish says, great investment, a Tesla car. The thumbs up.
And TikTok, SBROYDSEQ, you guys are fantastic. Keep it up. Thank you. And Sergey Trush from TikTok, tell your story how you made the first 100,000 in life. Well, all right, if we're getting personal, I've always been very thrifty and believed in saving and not living beyond your means and avoiding debt at all cost. And as a result, that first 100K for me came along many decades ago. It can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah. So getting back to fake news for just a moment, they talk about in this article as well why this fake news is a hoax and why it's a problem. Well, it creates false illusions. The news about a hypothetical hydrogen Tesla suggests that this technology is the next evolution in electric cars, when in reality, Tesla continues to focus on only electric.
Mm-hmm.
It can confuse the customers, making them wait for non-existing models instead of buying an electric car available in the market today. Second, it discredits electric cars. Spreading fake news about hydrogen as a miraculous alternative feeds the idea that electric cars have insurmountable limits, such as autonomy or charging times, distorting reality and slowing the transition towards sustainable vehicles.
Too true.
And then finally, hydrogen is presented as a cleaner and more innovative source. But the reality is that battery-powered electric cars are already more efficient and ready for large-scale adoption.
Yeah, that's so true. Electric cars in the last 20 years have gotten such good momentum.
And now for the conspiracy theorists, they say these hoaxes are not mere misinformation, but a manipulation tool that favors economic interests related to fossil fuels. So big oil is getting the rap on this one again.
There are people that would benefit in big oil from green hydrogen, especially.
Mm-hmm. So Lucid Motors, again, getting back to a stock that's on a tear right now. This morning I saw it up at over 7% at one point in time, as of this morning.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the PIF, or the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, which is a majority shareholder in Lucid, I think 60% or more, right?
Yeah, a little over 60%.
Yeah. They've established a Middle East headquarters in Riyadh. They announced this just Wednesday last week. And the new office is located in the King Abdullah Financial District, KAFD for short, while the company's global headquarters are in Newark, California, and its European bases Amsterdam, Netherlands, and of course the factory that is making vehicles, two of them. One is here in Casa Grande, Arizona, right in our backyard.
That's right.
So if you're interested, Lucid announced this new location on LinkedIn, and they have a video of this new office in Riyadh's skyline. All right. They say earlier this month, the company delivered its first vehicle in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, its sixth market globally. There, the Lucid Air sedans start at $84,000, including an AED, $3,600, well, $1,000 charging allowance, and 2 years of complimentary Lucid Care scheduled maintenance, according to their website.
We've talked a little bit about these stock prices going up. If you don't mind, let's
Time
get
to do
into
it.
that just a little
Yeah.
bit. Since the November election, we've seen a remarkable rise in the value of the largest U.S.-based EV stocks. I took a quick look. As of this morning, Rivian is up 35.4%, Lucid is up 47.6%, and Tesla is up an astounding 79.5%.
Yeah.
All since November 5th. Considering the pre-election consensus, which was, you and I talked about this, if Trump gets elected, what's going to happen to EVs? And we all thought, well, the stocks are going to tank. The entire industry is going to go down.
And the short sellers came out in droves, did they not?
Oh, they did. They did. And now the opposite has occurred. I took a quick look at what some of the big picture factors are between each company's rise. And this is beyond what's been happening in the industry. For Tesla, and Lucid and Rivian, in all three cases, there seem to be two main factors per company that are behind their rise. For Tesla, nothing outpaces Elon's ability to exert influence on the incoming administration.
Good point. Yep.
When Elon came out and took the leadership position of we need to kill the budget deal, Trump tried to spin it back to it was his decision, but most intelligent people know Elon and his 60 to 100 plus tweets that day killed the bill much more effectively than Trump did. People began to understand a little bit about how much influence Elon was going to be capable of having on the U.S. government, and buying Tesla because Elon is such a powerful person now has been one of the things helping to drive Tesla stock.
Mm-hmm.
This also means, Trump's administration has been talking a lot about, we're going to kill the credit. We're going to kill the credit. Now it's post-election. Well, maybe we'll kill the credit. The fact is, Elon Musk's influence on the Trump administration has thrown the credit, the EV credit, from a dead on arrival in January type of thing to very much in limbo. That's a lot of influence that he's had. Another factor for Tesla has been that analysts are finally starting to put some value to autonomy, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, um, the stationary battery storage, these other divisions within Tesla that have been making money hand over fist for the company. And we've seen valuations, expected valuations from analysts as high as $750 a share, which would mean that Tesla at its current $450 shares would be a huge bargain. Tesla is so big that whatever happens to Tesla is actually affecting the entire EV industry as well. That's one of the reasons that Rivian and Lucid are going up. They're the two probably largest EV makers, EV only makers,
Right.
that are out there. So for Rivian, since the election, Rivian secured a $6.6 billion loan from the Department of Commerce. If you remember, we've talked about this in the past. Ford having $40 billion of loans. Tesla has gotten one of these loans. Rivian's going to be able to build this Georgia plant now.
Okay.
So they're going to be able to increase production, go a little bit more. They want to put out the R2 models. Those R2 models are going to be more affordable for people. So Rivian's pathway toward profitability seems to have opened up, and this all happened since the election. For Lucid, it's all about gravity. The gravity has driven a lot of positive interest toward Lucid. In spite of the lawsuit against the board of directors about deceiving investors and so on and so forth, it's a activist stockholders lawsuit. The release of Gravity, their announced desire to provide electric powertrain licensing to automakers across the world, agreements potentially now with Jaguar as well as Aston Martin. These are all things that are helping to propel Lucid stock price upwards. But for them, it really is. It's all about gravity, the positive buzz that's been generated. Automakers doing things, or auto reviewers saying things like the Gravity is the best large SUV that we've ever driven, and yet it fits in the size of a mid-size SUV. I do think, especially with Lucid, less with Rivian than Lucid, and less with Tesla than Rivian, a short squeeze is helping to drive these prices up as well.
Oh, certainly. Most certainly. Yes.
Lucid has been heavily shorted as their prices have been going down early this fall, and the short squeeze is definitely on now. With Lucid, because there's no good reason that Lucid should be up 20% this week.
Right.
It's just happening. There's no press on Lucid. There are no new announcements, for better or for worse. All of the press, all of the information about Lucid is anywhere from 1 week to a couple months old. There's nothing new happening, and yet Lucid seems to be just going up and up. So I found these things to be really fascinating as far as why is the stock doing the opposite of what basically the common consensus was 2 months ago.
So unlike Tesla, where you had mentioned before, people are beginning to accept the fact that Tesla is not just a car company like those others that you mentioned.
Yeah.
They're beginning to realize that their revenue sources are much broader and much more varied into other markets than they are with the standard EV manufacturers.
Exactly. And with Tesla going up as much as it is, people who are buying on emotion are going to say, well, gee, if Tesla's going up, then all the electric motor companies must be going up. And they take a look at their Robinhood or their E-Trade account, and they see that they are going up, and like, oh, I got to get in on this. So there's been a lot of emotional buying going on that's a little bit disconnected with reality.
Yep. Question from Robert: whatever happened to the Gigafactory?
That's a great question. I think they're talking about the Mexico Gigafactory, which was supposed to be set to open sometime the end of this year or the beginning of 2025. That's dropped off the face of the earth as far as any press or announcements or anything else. I don't know what's happening with that.
If the Trump administration grenades NAFTA, maybe that's part of that.
There is a possibility, yes.
TikTok, Robert says Fisker, question mark? Well, it's probably rigor mortis at this point in time.
Yeah, as far as I know, Fisker is completely dead as a company. There are a few people that have their vehicles. Um, it's pretty unfortunate that Fisker is with what happened to them. At the same time, I just don't see any chance for recovery. I do believe that that company is going to end up as a Chapter 7 liquidation.
Hmm. So here's an interesting graph that popped up, and this one, we'll bring it up on the screen here. This is the world's largest economies as of 2075, so 51 years from now.
Hmm.
And what I found fascinating but not surprising is look at India, number 2.
Yeah.
Certainly possible. And the U.S., of course, definitely needs to rank in there somewhere. But this is a interesting prediction. It's very long range, but India definitely has the potential to become as their middle class starts to grow.
They definitely do. I was reading an article not too long ago about China and some of the issues that China is having. Population models going out 100 years now are saying that it's likely that China's population is not going to be close to 2 billion people like India's population will be.
Mhm.
Um, there is basically a cultural revolution that has occurred over the last 40 years since China put their one child policy in place. And that cultural revolution is that you have now two generations basically of people who have now been allowed to have more than one child. So it's become the cultural norm to either have no children or only one child. That does not replace population.
Mhm.
Instead of being 1.2 billion people in 10 years and being 2 billion plus people in 100 years, some people are estimating that China is going to shrink and they're only going to have about 500 million people in 100 years. As such, they will not be on the list of largest economies.
Mhm.
I find it fascinating. It's fun to read about that.
So this is where we get into our Saturday Night Live version of the weekend update regarding EVs and autos. And the first news item here is Lucid Motors reported they sold exactly 1,734 cars this last quarter. That's not a car company. That's a GoFundMe with a parking lot. Then BYD, China, has become the world's largest EV maker, surpassing Tesla. I have a BYD logo, but I'm not going to get it up here in time. When asked for comment, all right, it turns out Elon Musk tweeted, "Competition is good," which is billionaire speak for who told them they could do that.
In other news, Aptera unveiled their solar power car that looks like, well, show me a quick photo if you have time on the Aptera car.
I don't have one listed
Well,
here. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Imagine if a Pixar lamp and a fighter jet had a baby, and that baby was raised by dolphins.
There you go. Yes. Chinese EV manufacturer, oh, I'm sorry, GM just recalled every single Chevy Bolt ever made due to battery fire risks. The good news is that you can now use your Bolt to heat your garage. The bad news is you can only do it once.
Very true. Now, Chinese EV maker Neo just launched a smartphone because clearly what the world needs is a phone made by a car company that nobody outside of China has ever heard of.
Yep.
That's like Subway launching a dating app.
Another Chinese brand, Xpeng, revealed their flying car prototype. Because apparently regular Chinese EVs weren't scaring Tesla enough. Now they've got to add wings.
There you go. And finally, Lucid CEO said that their new Gravity SUV will redefine luxury. Yeah, from I'm rich to I'm rich and bad with money.
Right.
BYD also launched a new $233,000 supercar called the Yangwang U9. Now there's a photo of that on the screen. This finally answers the question, what if a Ferrari had an identity crisis in Chinese?
that was pretty accurate too. Look at the headlights. All right, so Aptera says that their solar car can drive up to 40 miles per day on solar power alone. It's perfect for people who want to spend $30,000 to save $2 on electricity.
Volkswagen CEO admitted that they're struggling to compete with Tesla. Apparently, it's harder to cheat on making an electric car than it is to make a diesel one.
Ouch.
Tesla owners are also complaining that their cars won't start in cold weather. Though, to be fair, neither will Tesla's customer service.
BMW announced their entire lineup will eventually go electric. They're keeping the massive kidney grills, though, because apparently some crimes against design are forever.
Yes, for sure. Lucid's marketing team claims that their target customer is someone who appreciates the finest things in life. My translation is that that's someone who's never heard of a financial advisor.
And we've got YouTube chiming in. Clark Leakins, thanks for joining us. Thoughts on Aptera? Well, during this humor session, we're probably nailing Aptera a few times here.
A couple times, yes.
Yeah. So finally, GM says they're all in on EVs, which explains why they just spent $6 billion on gas-powered truck production. That's like saying you're committed to sobriety while building a brewery.
Boy, that is so true. And Elon Musk has promised that Tesla will soon be able to talk to their owners. Great, because what every Tesla owner needs is another way for Elon to share his opinions. Lucid announced that their cars will come with ChatGPT built in. Because when you're losing $220,000 per car, why not add an AI that can help you write your bankruptcy filing?
So Aptera CEO claims their solar car is the future of transportation. Yeah, if the future is looking like you drive around in a computer mouse.
Ford announced that they're cutting production of the F-150 Lightning electric truck due to lower demand. It turns out adding a battery to a truck doesn't automatically make truck guys care about the environment. What do you think, Aaron?
I say we need more electric lightnings out there. I like them.
Do you? Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Rivian CEO said that they're laser focused on cutting costs. Starting by firing everyone who suggested making a $7,000 camp kitchen attachment for their truck.
BYD, Chinese manufacturer, launched a car that can do 0 to 60 in 2.36 seconds, while Tesla owners are still trying to figure out if their door handles are going to work today.
Yes.
Aptera announced that they're using Tesla's charging port design. Because if you're going to make a car that looks like it's from the future, you might as well make it compatible with charging stations from the present.
Yeah. We'd love to hear you guys' comments on this and any cheeky tongue-in-cheek jokes that you would have as well to add to us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have the best of holidays, and we're having fun. We hope you are. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner.